So I'm going to be doing a reaction on the missing Congresswoman out of Texas, Kay Granger, out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So going here to Fox News. Take a look at this.
And the age of America's politicians. After 81-year-old Congresswoman, she was missing 6 months of key House votes. Nobody knew where she was apparently, but she was eventually found living at a retirement community. Texas Congresswoman Kay Granger has been AWOL on the House floor for months. Her office claims that health challenges have made travel to Washington, quote, difficult. That's all they offered for an explanation. Meantime, her son telling local outlets that she's been dealing with, quote, dementia issues and has experienced a very rapid decline since moving into the retirement facility. The question here is, why are we just learning about this now? 81 years old. She voted as recently as July, Kennedy?
Yeah.
July.
Yeah.
And she wasn't in Washington, and nobody bothered to check to see where she was. Dementia doesn't happen overnight. This has been someone who's been suffering from this for a while.
So does that even mean we can even trust the bills and the policies that she's helped pass or support? Got to bring that into question.
Does and her family say that she has declined quite a bit since September, but she voted in July.
Yeah. So why is she still holding the office? It's like, what does it take to remove someone? Because that's an abdication of responsibility, and the people in her district deserve to be represented in Congress. If she can't do it, and she clearly cannot, if her son is admitting that she has dementia issues, then she shouldn't be serving. Step aside. I mean, what is the removal process like? We hear about, the 25th Amendment for the president, but
yeah, you have to vote on it in the House. But if that case was made, that I'm sure everybody would vote for it. Problem is, yeah, she was well enough to show up at Congress for the unveiling of her portrait. But as we were talking about, Nicole and I were talking about, she didn't vote that day because I don't think she was necessarily capable of voting. So yes, look, the media never did its job. Mm-hmm. Constituents, I think, were misled by looking at her Twitter feed because she's continuing.
And honestly, when is the media ever, especially mainstream media, when are they ever doing their job?
To post. Who was doing that? I think this, of all the ethics reports out there, this demands an ethics investigation, because what was the staff doing? How were they responding to constituents?
How is that not elder abuse?
Well, how is that? That is so misleading to the constituents and the people that she represents in Texas.
First of all, talk about elder abuse, talk about misleading to the American public, because this is not our only elected official. Ever heard of Joe Biden? I mean, seriously, Joe Biden's mental decline has been something that we've been talking about for a really long time. And Nicole, it's not just Joe Biden, it's Senator Mitch McConnell, it's Nancy Pelosi.
Like, how many times has Mitch McConnell frozen in mid-speech, and they just had a video of him being wheeled around in a wheelchair?
Again, our president, who obviously has cognitive issues, where do you draw the line? Because it's really irresponsible for these elected officials, right? But their families are condoning it, just like Jill Biden did for years and covered it up.
So it's obviously a very slippery slope what we're talking about here. Some people are saying call for term limits, which, that there's a valid argument for that in general, just to have normal turnover when it comes to our elected Congress. But then some people talk about, well, since we have a minimum age for like presidency, maybe we should have a maximum age, which I actually don't agree with, because I think that, there's some sort of intelligence and experience comes with age. But it does come down to whether they are able to mentally and physically perform their job. And that goes beyond Congress and what she has.
Okay, then at a certain age, let's just start saying maybe 65, 70. If you want to stay in Congress, or if you want to stay in office, if you want to stay as a judge, a federal judge, which we all know all of them are lifetime appointments. If you want to be a governor, if you want to be a judge on a local level, or district attorney, or hold some kind of office at a certain age, then you should every year or every 2 years annually have a mental cognitive test to make sure that you're well and healthy. I mean, I'm a truck driver. Every so often. I have to go through drug screening every few years. I have to go through a physical. Um, it should be the same for public office. You are taking your constituents for granted. You're making a pretty good living, a lot more money on a usually a lot more money than your own constituents by far as a whole, and you're getting paid with taxpayers' money to enact, write legislation that can either hurt or harm the American people, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. So yeah, and if you are sound and mentally fit and physically fit for the job, then yeah, maybe you should be able to continue to run for office. But the moment that you may fail a test, or you know people around you are starting to notice a decline mentally, then humble yourself, leave leave your position to somebody else, definitely younger, and go enjoy your life with your grandkids.
Has clearly demonstrated the moment that they said that she has been struggling with dementia is the moment that she should have been taken out of her seat, because she represents the American people. She was voted to be in there. It is a complete failure of her duty to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, the term limits are one thing, right? But like you said, you can't set a maximum age. And an 81-year-old could be very healthy, and then you could have another
Well,
81-year-old.
you got Senator Grassley, who's like 90 and as sprite as can be. I
There
put
you
him up
go.
against
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah.
But you had a Senator Feinstein who was pretty much incapacitated
Yeah.
for a long period
Yeah.
of time as
Yeah.
well.
I mean, if you look at this, though, as an American who's voting for these people, and you're relying on these people, and you're trusting these people, what does it say to new people that are coming in? You cannot trust them if they can't make an educated and wise decision to pull themselves out when they're no longer capable of serving their country.
Well, and that's the key point here. And listen, I'll just say, as a Gen Zer, I'm actually pretty sympathetic towards term limits because I'd like to see some more representation in Congress. And I think it's been made very clear that people will not give up political power unless they are literally forced to. We wouldn't even need to have conversations about term limits if people didn't choose to become career politicians. They are supposed to be public civil servants. And that's the
She is completely right. The fact that this woman has been in office for nearly 30 years is crazy. You look at somebody like Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden. Y'all have spent nearly 50 or over 50 years in office, and what have you actually done for the American people? Like, literally. Um, so, we really start have to asking questions about, getting some Gen X, millennials. I think there's a good majority of Gen Z that might be eligible. Um, we need fresh blood. We need fresh faces, fresh ideas. Can't continue to have people in office. They don't even understand how technology works. They don't even understand, the world is moving fast. We're developing fast, and how are you going to be able to can keep up and write legislation or enact legislation or even enforce legislation that you don't even have any idea what's going on. And I know a lot of old people that shouldn't even be driving. You know, so you just have to start asking questions. If you can't even drive, or you're going 45 and a 70 on the interstate, like, you're putting everybody in danger. It's not only on the interstate, but then you're also putting people in danger by not keeping up. And understanding that the world is moving fast and society's moving fast, and there's a lot of things that of course, there's a lot of traditional values and you know traditions that we need to keep up with, and we thank you for bringing that, especially to us younger generations. But at the same time, gotta be able to keep up.
the real problem with this story is that Kay Granger was supposed to be a representative for her constituents, who are real people with real needs. And for the past 6 months, they have not had an advocate in Washington,
which is her sole responsibility. She deprived them of that right. She failed to do her responsibility. And I don't know who's to blame. I don't know if the family's to blame. I don't know if the staff is to blame. I don't
Yes
really
and
want to
yes.
get into, yeah.
I think
all
both.
of the above.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
the victims here are the people, the constituents she was supposed to represent. Where do they go to get their voice back?
I
Two
don't know.
things, though.
George
Two things,
Santos, he's going to run for her seat.
Yeah, exactly.
Two things, though. The people in that, they have to get rid of these people. It's okay. I beat a 12-year incumbent Republican, okay, when I first ran for Congress. It's okay to vote somebody out. They have to also make these decisions and take some responsibility
But they
as well.
didn't know. They didn't know where she was
But
at.
they need to know. They need to go figure out.
They
The
weren't
second thing
trying
is,
to find out, it seems. They were just letting it happen because that's the mentality in Washington, that if you don't show up, it's okay.
If you don't show up at your job,
Yeah.
you get a call from
Somebody
your
would
boss
notice
saying,
after
where
6
are you?
months.
So if she hasn't come to vote on something since July,
Yeah.
why wasn't she getting a phone call?
Yeah.
Where are you?
But I think another big problem, and I'm not knocking the American people, I'm very sympathetic towards it, especially when you're talking about constituents. A lot of people are apolitical. Um, they're not able to keep up with the day-to-day, um, what's going on in politics, what's going on in the news, what's going on around the world. A lot of people, there's a lot of people who actually have jobs. They're not even allowed to be on their phone while at work. And then, you usually work an 8-hour shift, a 10-hour shift, a 12-hour shift. Some people are working double shifts. Some people are working 2 or 3 jobs. Some people are getting home dealing with kids. Some people are, they have other affairs that they have to deal with. And then, I mean, yeah, I'm a political junkie. I'm able to keep up with politics because of the type of job. I own my own business and I also drive trucks, so I'm able to keep up with what's going on just because I'm usually bored. But a lot of people don't want to come home or wake up first thing in the morning, watch the news. Um, they want to get away. They want to watch Breaking Bad. They want to watch Sons of Anarchy. They want to watch Jeopardy. They want to watch whatever they've got going on. Some people, they want to watch an NFL game. They want to be able to escape, especially when you're talking about working 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 hours in a week, just to be able to pay the bills. And then you have to ask the serious question too. What news can you trust? I mean, currently, watching this on Fox News. But there's been times that I've watched Fox News deliberately lie and mislead their viewers. Same thing with MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, Joy Reid, CNN. So if a lot of people don't know where to get honest and true information, then it becomes easy for them to just go vote, take that ballot, every 2 years, every 4 years, and just vote down ballot. I'm gonna just vote Democrat. I'm just gonna vote Republican. Um, and a lot of people don't know what's really being passed. They don't. They don't know what's really being done in Washington on a local level. And we can sit here and say, yeah, it's them to blame, but at the same time, yes, you also have to have coming from an understanding, like, you've been working all day. You've been making moves happen all day. And the last thing you want to do is watch politics, especially if you're not a junkie about it, especially if that's not, you know, like for me, it's a hobby, but you know, for other people, it's it's not that important until, their pockets are hurt or until there's a reason for it to be important. Like some people, they don't even vote in the midterms because they're so busy focused on the presidential election. Some people, it's just the reality of things.
I think that facade was put up there, and it also shows that the national media is not doing her job. You go and look at her website. She's chairman emeritus of the Appropriations Committee. She is in charge of all discretionary spending in the House of Representatives. You wonder why we're in so much trouble? If somebody hasn't shown up at their job in the last 6 months. Elon wants to get her back to their desk. That person wasn't at their desk. The other thing is there needs to be term limits for the bureaucracy. Dr. Fauci should have never sat in that seat for 40 plus years. You get too comfortable. If you're going to do term limits, do them for the
That's
bureaucracy
absolutely
as
true.
well.
They get way too comfortable. That's why she thought it was okay to not show up.
And I totally agree. There's people, I do want you to be able to get a pension and some kind of retirement and benefits and stuff, but when you're sitting here making decisions that truly affect American people and you are complacent, I mean, at the same time, maybe we should have review boards or something, or maybe he's right, term limits. I don't really know the best way to handle it because, there are people, they take a job straight out of college or relatively after, and they retire in that position. But then when you're talking about the bureaucracy, you're talking about the deep state, you're talking about people who actually run the government, they all have, a lot of them have an agenda, and it's not just doing their job or doing what's best for the American people. Sometimes their agenda is, self-centered, it's very destructive, it's very authoritarian, it's very corrupt, and, maybe we should have an outside review board. You can't have the police, you know, uh, reviewing the police. You can't have the police reviewing the police. So maybe there should be some kind of third party, constituent based review board, or maybe just, you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart, you're doing it to be a public servant, and then boom, it's just a term limit. You get I don't know, you're a senator, you get 2 terms, 12 years. You're a congressperson, you get 6 terms, 2 years apiece, still equaling 12. You're a federal judge. I mean, who knows? But the reality is, we can't continue to have all these issues going on inside of America and nobody's really talking about it. Nobody's reporting on it. Um, People got to do a better job.
Up to work for 6 months. If any of us did that, we'd be fired. A Pew Research poll from earlier this year found that a staggering 87% of Americans were in favor of term limits for Congress. 87%. Obviously, it's not just the Gen Zers, it's all of America. You put somebody in office, at some point, you need a new face. You need some fresh blood. Nancy Pelosi needs to walk off with her cane or crutch.
Mitch McConnell, it's
Walker.
painful to watch him sometimes when he has the moments of just complete
just pure space.
Well, and Jason,
and Joe Biden.
You raised an interesting point about her seat on the Appropriations Committee, because where were her colleagues? Why didn't they say anything about this? Why did the media have to report it? Why has everyone just been completely silent on her whereabouts?
She's not the only one. I'm sorry, but
And that's a true statement. You don't just get dementia tomorrow or today. So chances are she's been forgetting things for the past 5, 10 years, and people have literally just given her a pass. They're like, oh, she's a Republican, I'm a Republican, let's just give him a pass. You're talking about Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden. Well, they're a Democrat, we got to give them a pass. And we sat here and just seen this in the past week, which we've all known, but we just found out in the past week that, yeah, there's been a cover up since 2019, since 2020, since Joe Biden was in the basement. There's been a complete cover up by his staff. And we all know there's been a complete cover up by the whole entire Democratic left leaning news organization, CNN, MSNBC. Joe Biden is mentally sound. He's mentally fit. Even though he looks old, he's really actually young. He's got, mentally he's Benjamin Button. But the reality is no. These people need to give up power, but they love it. They love the power, they love the control, they love the fame, they love the ability to have businesses and, foreign governments and lobbyists, on their beck and call. And, you know, like the young lady said, you pretty much have to force these people out.
But Congressman Scott is on the Democratic side of the aisle. He is not able to fully function.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
And maybe they actually did know, but because the Republicans have such a slim majority, they didn't want to chance the fact that she might not have her seat. Like, there may be some deceit happening
But
here.
again,
People
you
very
answer to
close,
the American
they
people.
know. They know.
Yeah, and
They know.
this is the problem, though.
And with her, I have to do a little bit more research, but they're saying that she's out of the Dallas Fort Worth area, where you're talking about a vast growing Democratic population moving to Dallas, moving to Fort Worth. So if that was hold on one sec. Uh, yeah, so after zoning, she's over the Fort Worth, Texas district, the 12th district. As you know, Fort Worth is a major city right next to Dallas. They're pretty much side by side. And I mean, I understand where the fear is kind of coming from. You know, it's a growing Democratic population. People are moving from California, people are moving from New York, you know, people are moving from these other blue states to the red states. But the reality is, you know, if you're doing good politics, you're being honest, you're doing stuff for the American people, people in your district are going to vote for you, whether you're a Republican or Democrat. So with her being a Republican, if she's, you know, doing what she's supposed to be doing, it's a little iffy. Um, she would be able to, you know, give that position to somebody else and they'll be able to win in the next election. But, you know, power is a dangerous drug.
Right.
You answer to the American people. You do not answer to the GOP party apparatus. You
Yeah.
do what's best for the constituents first and foremost, always.
Well, that's not what the Biden administration, they knew for years of his cognitive decline, and they covered it up. And so that's the Washington we have been dealt.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Out Now.
But, you know, all these people, they need term limits. They need some kind of review status. Maybe cognitive test, as I was saying. But, you know, this is the kind of America that we live in until we as the people, you know, decide to make that change. So, but hope you enjoyed the video. Like, share, subscribe. Be posting more.